there, it's Tash, and today I'm here to do my May and June reading wrap-up all together in a single video because altogether I read about 3 books. So the first and only book I read in May is Eleanor, Oliphant is Completely Fine, and everyone has already read and talked about this book, but if you have somehow not heard of it before, it is about this woman in her 30s who has troubles integrating in society. She's very lonely and has a traumatic past, and we follow her processes of dealing with that and the ways in which she gradually begins to be integrated into society. Yeah, I gave it 3 stars. I have very mixed feelings about this. A lot of the things that, I think have already been said. I think that the mystery and thriller aspect of the novel, while it did its job, and I think it did what it wanted to do, it made me keep reading. It made me want to know Eleanor's mysterious tragic backstory, but I found it sort of cheap and gimmicky, and I find amnesia a really cheap gimmicky writing trick. And I know that a lot of Eleanor's missing memories are due to repression because of her traumatic past, and I'm not particularly informed whether this kind of repression is a frequent type of thing or a common type thing, but I just found it a cheap trick to get you to keep reading. There were lots of things that I did like about it too. I really liked the character of Eleanor. She was very #relatable, as I think she was meant to be, and she points out a lot of weird things about our society, again, as she was meant to. On the topic of society, I think that this book hits on a lot of things that I have problems with and that I'm often thinking about, but I don't like the way in which it did it. So for instance, I'm often thinking about society and whether social integration into society is what it takes to be happy and to live a good life. And this novel takes it for granted that yes, social integration and social relationships are how we find happiness, and it just sort of sits there as a presupposition, as a premise, and it's not really questioned, and it's just taken for a given that that is an assumed truth, which I just found frustrating. And it just didn't give me what I wanted. And I think feeding into that is also the fact that I thought this was a literary fiction book, and it's not, so it didn't really give me anything that I wanted. Flipping back to another positive, I really enjoyed Eleanor's mother. I think she was wonderful, and I would read a whole book about her because whenever she popped in, I was just having a great time. I wish she had more screen time. So yeah, that's how I feel about that. It's very mixed, and even though it's meant to be a feel-good novel, it left me feeling really wretched. It left me really unhappy. So I wanted to read something that would make me feel happy and that was, gonna pick my mood up from the gutter that it was in. And I was searching, for a happy book, and then I realized I don't own any happy books, nor am I particularly interested in reading happy books. So I went for the nostalgia route and I read Rowan of Rin by Emily Rodda. This is a bind-up, but I just read the first one, and it is a middle grade story about this young boy called Rowan who has to go on this journey up this mysterious magical mountain to figure out why the water supply to his village has run dry. And I was kind of upset to find that I didn't enjoy this reread as much as I have enjoyed rereading it in the past. This time I found it a bit flat, and I mean, it's not made for adults, it's a middle grade book, so it is what it is. But yeah, I was a bit unhappy to find that my childhood favourite didn't hold up this time in a reread. Maybe it was just my mood, but I still gave it 5 stars out of loyalty, nostalgia. It's always going to be one of my favourite books purely because of the role it has had in my life. And then I read another book that I have very mixed opinions on, and that was The Consolations of Philosophy. I had been trying to read this book for literally years, and it is sort of a self-help philosophy book wherein it takes a number of topics that people might have problems with, like not having enough money, about not being particularly popular, and it assigns a topic to a philosopher, and it talks about the way that that problem was present in a particular philosopher's life and the way that that philosopher dealt with those problems and also their philosophy around those problems. Yes, I had been trying to read this for so long in the physical version. I have the book, but I don't know where it is. And I spent ages trying to read the first section, which is on Socrates and unpopularity, and it was just, it pained me. I was so bored and annoyed, and it was just not a good time. But then I got the audiobook and I read it on like double speed while I was in the car. So while I was driving, I was only giving the book like half of my attention and half of my mind. And I think that that worked out better than sitting down and reading it, because it really only needed half of your mind, half of your attention, and I venture that it only really deserved half of your time and half of your attention. It is a very accessible book, which is lovely, that philosophy can become accessible to so many people, and it's wonderful, and I support that. But I did not like the way it dealt with the philosophy, and maybe I'm just elitist and an asshole, but philosophy, I feel, is a discipline, and there are particular ways in the Western society through which you need to approach it. You need to constantly be proving and defending your points, and in this book it was just kind of stating ideas, which I don't think constitutes philosophy. Yeah, so I wasn't, yeah, mixed thoughts. Yes, so that's it from me. Hopefully the past 2 months reading wise have been better for you than they were for me. Yeah, but that's it. Bye.